Welcome back to the Bureau XCOM Declassified on Blues Backlog. This is the fourth part of the four-part series. I'll be finishing up the first real mission you go on during the game. We've been looking for Dr. Alan Weir with two other 50s guys, good old chaps, fighting the alien invasion that covered the whole globe that we managed to cover up so nobody knew about it somehow. Which falls in line with the directly contradictory game elements within the game, which all in all has led to kind of a disappointing experience so far, because previous XCOM games I've played, namely XCOM Enemy Unknown, have been really fantastic, and this one falls so far short of being a really cool XCOM game. It manages just to be a competent third-person shooter with some command order things. We're going to see how this level shapes up in the end. There's going to be some interesting encounters. We're finishing up an encounter here where my squad mates ran all over the place and got themselves killed. And we're going to find Dr. Alan Weir and get some story bits. I hope you enjoy it. Alright, so we're back with our medic support guy running over a mine after I just revived him. Get in some cover, immediately blows up. This is indicative of pretty much all of the AI ability in XCOM, or rather the Bureau XCOM Declassified, is they are brain dead.
Cover there! On the move! Going now! I'm in position!
This was a really obnoxious fight because it channeled you into a single doorway that was very hard to approach. And there wasn't any way to kind of go around it or strategically approach this. It was just kind of attack these things and hope you get it. It also puts you at a really bad angle because anywhere you wanted to assault it from, you were flanked.
Attack! Firing on your target! Focus on that one. Copy. Targeting. Commander! I need a medic! They're closing in! Orders? I can't take much more! Keep the pressure on them! Alley-oop! That's a kill! Commander! Hit it hard! Stims! Activate the shot! Shield orb, there!
One thing I quickly forgot in pretty much every encounter was that I had grenades. Grenades never actually felt super useful, unlike in XCOM Enemy Unknown, so I wound up like hardly ever using them. Which was kind of disappointing because in XCOM Enemy Unknown they were a staple early game until you could actually get useful weapons.
Damn it! Attack! This one's mine! Almost got it down! They're pushing! What do we do? That's the last of them.
See, like that, they leave the ammo, like, way out in the open, so it's almost impossible to pick that up without taking fire during the fight. But then after everything is over, you can just go freely pick it up. I mean, I guess if I spent a little more time looking around, it would be possible for me to restock during the fight and not have as many ammo problems. But in the heat of the moment, it's real easy to just kind of, like, there's a guy shooting at me, I need to move. And some of these things are kind of tucked away, so they aren't immediately visible. So it's really something like after you have finished the fight, you feel encouraged to go look around,
Falk,
but not during
I found one of those
fight.
reactor spheres. Looks like what we saw at Groom Range.
And?
This whole town is transforming, and it starts with these seeds.
And they act fast.
And I don't think they're gonna stop here, but we still don't know why.
We need answers. Find Dr. Weir and get back here.
See, this terraforming stuff, it's what doesn't make any sense. Like, look at the surrounding landscape. I don't know if you noticed, but kind of previously off to the right, there was like a house that was about to fall into a giant cavernous pit because of all this terraforming. Like, we just act like the government can cover all this up. What did they do? Did they just, like, airdrop in a bunch of dirt or something to fill up these land masses? Like, it just doesn't make any sense.
The observatory has been compromised. No sign of Weir or his assistant. We're going in. Be ready on the evac. It's gonna be touch and go.
On the way.
There's no time. You must collect your data before I lose control of the gate.
Incredible.
Alan! Take the measurements!
Yes, I see it now.
We've been detected! You must escape! Hurry!
No! There's so much to understand.
Dr. Weir, we need to leave now.
Take your hands off me.
I'll try my best to delay them, but they'll be coming now. You must get Dr. Weir to safety. He is the key. The key to Mosaic.
Understood.
Who in blazes are you people anyway? How did you even find me?
Look, all you need to know is we're here to save you.
I don't recall asking for help from the likes of... Bloody hell!
Take cover, Doctor! Now!
This fight is kind of ridiculous in that you have to fight a gunship with essentially, like, bullet rifles. Like, why? How would that do any damage? And then a laser shotgun.
Hit it hard!
Take an aim. Oh.
Set up some cover!
Shields up.
Attack!
Targeting.
Get those stims ready!
Stamps ready. I'm injured.
Walk it off! Hand grenade! I owe you one. Pin down!
Oh, I can't take much more. Oh,
Regroup!
on the CO.
Back on you, Commander!
There's another example of sticky cover not really working too well. It's kind of run towards it and then just doesn't really work properly.
Attack! Copy. Targeting. Shield orb, there!
Shield going up. I'm fading fast over here. I'm still injured!
This has to be one of the hardest fights in the entire game, I think.
Take it down!
I can't
Got
think
it!
of a harder fight than this one. Simply because the
Focus
point
on
at
that
which you're
one.
at in this
Copy.
game, you're
Target.
very early. All
Take
you
it
really
out.
have is the scatter laser and a couple of really basic abilities. And later on, it's just really easy to just sit there and spam abilities, where here you really
Keep the
have to
pressure on
basically wait in cover, wait for them to kind of show up and make a mistake, and then charge them when you have a chance like that.
Damn! Commander, you're wounded. Hit it hard! Taking the shot! Do it, shield! Let's hit it!
How about some heal? Eat that! Reloading!
Check your wounds, Commander.
The CO's hit!
Need help here!
Hang in there.
Shield that spot! Help me up!
I got you, Commander. Least I could do, Commander.
Thanks, I needed that. Focus on that target!
Copy. Targeting.
Commander, you okay?
Need a medic, Commander? Weapons dry!
See, now we get to the great bullet sponge in the sky. Nothing in XCOM Enemy Unknown really felt like a bullet sponge because
hard.
everything seemed to do damage
Take it out.
consistent with what you were using. Bullet weapons did less damage, laser weapons did more damage, and plasma weapons were devastating. And you knew exactly how to approach certain situations, and nothing really took an obscene amount of bullets to kill. You might have to focus your entire squad's fire on it, but for what you had, it was completely reasonable. And in this game with 3 people, some of this stuff just feels
Walk it
really a pain to actually fight against. It's not fun. Like this, there's, you know, it's big, you can't use any of your abilities on it, you basically just have to sit here and pump bullets into it until it dies. And unlike in XCOM Enemy Unknown, where it's kind of turn-based, there's this understanding that it's slower pace. This is kind of, you know, live, it's real time, and it's quick action, and so this really kills the pacing and just unnecessarily draws it out. And the fact that my 9mm pistol is doing this much damage to it all of a sudden is absolutely ridiculous. I think I'll wind up taking this out with the pistol, which doesn't make any sense. Why would this be able to be taken down by a pistol?
They're all dead. Let's get moving.
Falk, we've recovered Dr. Weir.
Well done, Carter. Well done.
Barnes, if you're in the neighborhood, we could use a lift.
Roger that. Let's get the hell out of here.
Thank you, Agent Carter. I never would have made it out of here without you. Or without Lawrence.
Yay, level up. Sniper's almost leveled up another level, and I thought that was important at the time. But it isn't, because they suck. Also, one thing I don't like about the way they just kind of hand you things is it doesn't give you a chance to really feel like you're choosing something to do in XCOM Enemy Unknown. You got to choose the order of research you did. Do you want armor? Do you want weapons?
Following military installations are no longer functional. Barstow, Fort Drum, Fort Mason, McClellan, Nellis, Norfolk, New London, and Wright-Patterson. These bases are confirmed.
Jesus.
With predicted casualties of 90 to 100.
There are easier ways to give up smoking, I'm told. I came here to ask for your help. We have several situations that require a senior agent, but with De Silva already in the field and me tied to a desk and Nils... Well, you're the only one I can trust with this. Just go to Ops and access the map.
Do I have a choice?
Not really.
Glad to help out.
Alright, and that's pretty much going to cover it for the Bureau XCOM Declassified. It's an interesting game. Like I said, it's a competent third-person shooter. It's functionally there. The shooting works. The cover mechanics are understandable. It can feel a bit punishing at times. Simply be like when you're trying to aim or something, it feels like you take an absolute ton of damage. But as I was getting at, there's some issues with how they approach certain things. The fact that you can't choose what to buy and what to upgrade, I find really problematic, because that was something that I found really compelling about XCOM Enemy Unknown, is you felt a lot of ownership about over your progression, rather. When you made it to a certain point of the game, it was all because of things you had done. You had collected the materials to research getting armor, which lets your guys live just that little bit longer to be more of a threat to the enemies. Or you collected the materials to make laser weapons to make you a better fighting force in the field, so that when you finally came up against those dreaded chrysalids, they weren't as much of a pain. In this game, it's kind of like, here's a scatter laser. Scatter lasers were awesome in XCOM Enemy Unknown. Like, once you got the laser weapons, you just kicked all kinds of butt. And with this one, it's really watered down, and it just feels disappointing. And the fact that they just kind of give it to you, it's really underwhelming, you know? It's something that I felt was, for me, it was iconic. It was like, whoa, a scatter laser. I remember that from Enemy Unknown. Why am I getting that now? Like, I only have bullet weapons. They aren't that good anyway. Usually you get a laser rifle before you get a scatter laser. The scatter laser is something kind of incremental that you get after the laser rifle. And so it was just really disconcerting. And the weapons, you know, they don't end up mattering a whole lot. That's one disappointing thing about the game, I feel, is that the weapons just simply don't matter. You can kind of pick whatever you want, and it works just as well as anything else. Really, range weapons. Shotguns are absolutely useless in this game. But the range weapons are all kind of just the same. It just depends if you want a laser variant or a bullet variant. And it really just comes down to personal preference. I found both of them equally as effective, which is ridiculous. But the backpacks, that's where it started treading into like really weird territory, because as you saw at the end of that level, I got a sharpshooter pack, and that increases headshot damage. Well, at the time, there wasn't anything else I could wear, so obviously I would get the sharpshooter pack because it gave me a bonus. I really would have liked the ability to choose something else. I wasn't planning to sit back and do a lot of sniping or headshot stuff. I mean, I would get headshots because I would try to aim for them, but it just really didn't seem beneficial like something else would, especially because, like I mentioned, I don't actually know if my AI partners can get headshots, so it really felt like kind of a waste for them. You know, I really would have preferred to have something that let my guys use their abilities more or make them take less damage. Like, that's eventually what I did with my support. I was just like, okay, you take less damage, and then when you're on a revive mission, you take even less damage. So he effectively took no damage when he went to go revive somebody, which was awesome. And you had no ability to kind of like custom tailor your guys until the very end of the game, when it didn't matter, because you could kind of just sit behind cover and spam your abilities until you won the fight. And so the backpack stuff just kind of became irrelevant, besides giving you an interesting looking backpack. So that was like the core of the issue, I think, behind the fact that it just gave you things, was that it really stripped out that element of ownership in your progression that was present in the other XCOM games. And then getting another thing that really kind of got to me was, and it's made me think about other games, is this idea of tragedy in video games. I think is really, really hard to pull off, and very, very few games, I think, manage to do it. This is a game that really started to make me think about it, because at the very beginning of this game, not shown in this video, you're at a base, and it gets blown up, and everybody dies except for, like, you and 3 people, and then you escape with Nils, another guy, and Weaver and Falk pick you up in a helicopter. So Nils and Weaver are the only 2 senior agents that make it out with you. Later on, when you get back to base, Nils gets shot and killed, and the game kind of assumes that we're going to have some kind of emotional reaction to this. Like, oh my god, Nils was the only person who's like, I don't even know Nils. Why do I care if Nils died? They also talk about, like, oh, all these bases got blown up. Like, this is the first hour of game. Like, I wasn't there. I didn't see any of it. They didn't make me, they didn't invest me in these, military bases and the army at all. I'm not even really part of the army. Carver is like an ex-FBI CIA agent who kind of got dismissed for bad behavior. So I really don't have any tie to these things. It's completely irrelevant to the character. It's completely irrelevant to me as a player. And I just feel it was really poorly executed on. And there's a lot of games that poorly execute on this tragedy idea. In XCOM Enemy Unknown, they kind of avoided this because it's like, oh, the alien invasion is happening, we need to respond to it. And it didn't really play up the whole emotional drama part that they do in the Bureau XCOM Declassified. And I just really felt that it detracted from the game. It felt completely unnecessary and cheesy and just patronizing. I was like, I don't care about any of this. I don't know why you expect me to care about any of this. It's completely meaningless jibber-jabber. Like, at the end there, they mentioned how Nils, unfortunately, like, Nils, and she just kind of trails off, and I'm just kind of like, yeah, whatever. So I feel that they invested a lot of time into trying to do this emotional impact drama nonsense, and it didn't really work. I feel that if they had cut all of that out and added back in the things that made Enemy Unknown really interesting and that just kind of hooked you into it, the Bureau would have been such a better game. But I think they felt kind of obligated, since it is third person, it brings you in a bit closer, to kind of develop this sort of narrative built around these people, and they shoehorned in a bunch of things. And ultimately, between the kind of forced tragedy things and the absolute absurdity of the idea that all of this gets covered up, that no one really knows about this somehow because radios are out, nobody's panicking, that we lose all the technology between the 50s and when other XCOM games happen in the future, it just all comes off as silly and completely detached and not really part of the XCOM series. And that kind of sums up this whole game as it's not part of the XCOM series. This is a shooter about aliens, and you are part of an organization like XCOM, but at no point does it actually feel like the XCOM organization. One thing that made Enemy Unknown great is like, you are the XCOM organization funded by the entire world, and as countries dropped out because they had too much panic, you really felt it. It felt like it was an organization that was kind of behind the scenes. It was like basically the Special Forces Alien Response UN team, and in this it feels just kind of like an off branch of the CIA that nobody knew about, and that it just waters it down. Watered down. That is this game. XCOM watered down. And it's that is the very best way you can put it. So ultimately, kind of disappointing. I can't recommend picking this game up at full price, honestly, because it isn't worth it to me. This is the sort of game where if you find it for cheap on like a Steam sale or in the bargain bin, it's fun to play through. It's neat to kind of go through it and figure out what works and doesn't work. It's one of those kind of min-maxing games where you figure out what works really well, and then you just kind of exploit that the entire way through until it gets kind of boring. And I haven't actually finished the game yet. I've been kind of stuck. I'm at like the last kind of major story part where you're about to go do something important, and that kind of finishes the game off. But I just haven't been able to bring myself to play through it just because, I don't necessarily want to commit the time because it's just going to be more of the same. The combat never really changes. They add in a few more enemies, emphasis on a few, like 3 or about 3 at most. And it's basically they just throw guys at you in different shaped rooms that all kind of look the same. So ultimately, disappointing. I was expecting a bit more out of it, but it's not bad. You can't say this is a bad game. It's just kind of an underwhelming and disappointing game, especially if you played other XCOM games. For my next one, I'll hopefully be doing something that is a little bit more inspired and more interesting. I'm thinking maybe Metro 2033 or something else. So we will see how that pans out. It will probably be a bit more interesting than the Bureau has been. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you got something out of this footage, and I will see you next time.